Welcome to the Write the Damn Book Already podcast. My name is Elizabeth Lyons. I'm a 5-time author, and I teach people how to write and publish powerful, thought-provoking nonfiction and memoir without overthinking or getting caught up in extreme overwhelm. Because your story and message matter, and it's about to become someone's very favorite resource. For more book writing, publishing, and how the heck do I move through this glitch tips and solutions, and plenty of free resources, visit publishaprofitablebook.com. Okay, welcome to this episode of Write the Damn Book Already. If you have ever considered writing a children's book, this episode is going to blow your mind. I met Jamie Gagnon probably about a year ago, who has any sense of time, I was doing a presentation for a Facebook group called Author Moms, and Jamie was in there, and I immediately she just grabbed me, and I started following her on Instagram and everywhere else, and learned that she was releasing this delightful children's book called Imagine My Love. And it just released this past September, in September of 2022, and I could not wait to interview her about the process. I get so many questions about how to write children's books. I have 3 of my own that have been sitting in a file for 20 years almost, probably, that I've done nothing with because I have some of the same questions. I've actually published a couple of children's books for one author, Erin Thorburn, but we did this well before Amazon was allowing hardback. It was before Ingram Spark. And so they're paperback and they're wonderful. But now that we can, as self-published or as hybrid published authors, create top quality children's books in hardback format, in a traditional industry size for a hardback, I could not wait to get, I almost said my hands on, but that's my ears on Jamie to learn all about her experience writing this book. And I learned so much more than I came here for because she is love in a human being. And her intention when it came to not just writing the book, but just living life it fired me up to the point that I'm ready to tackle this whole damn day at this point. I'm not even going to talk anymore. We're just going to launch right into this interview so that you can learn everything that you ever wanted to know about writing and publishing a children's book. Very quickly, before we get started, if you are just getting started on your self-publishing journey, I know it can be overwhelming to think about all of the tasks in front of you. Even if you've been listening to podcasts and reading and watching videos on how to self-publish, putting all the bits and pieces together while worrying if you're doing it correctly can be quite stressful without having a clear list of action steps and knowing what you should be doing first, second, and third. Luckily, I've outlined all of this for you in my program, Publish a Profitable Book. This is your one-stop shop to your self-publishing journey so you can confidently publish from the get-go. And until the end of 2022, it's enjoying relaunch pricing in honor of its most recent upgrades. This course provides you with the essential steps to a published book that is indistinguishable in quality from a book published by the big guys, while saving you time, money, and moments overthinking as you embark on your author journey. We tackle everything from how to find an incredible editor, to finding a top-notch and reasonably priced cover designer, to uploading to distribution channels like Amazon. As a podcast listener, you get an extra 10% off with code PODCAST. Payment plans are available, allowing you to get started for under $100. So if you choose a payment plan and still want that extra 10% off, simply use code PODCASTPLAN. So that's code PODCAST for pay in full or podcast plan for either of the payment plan options. If 2023 is going to be the year you get your book published, head on over to publishaprofitablebook.com/publish and get started. Imagine My Love has just recently released, yes?
Yes. September 14th. Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And hardback, children's book. So I love it for so many reasons. Number one, it's a children's book, which people ask questions about all the time. How do I do this? It's a completely different, I say beast, which I now realize is sort of unfair because I make it sound like, but it is. It's a completely different thing from a paperback or an audio, obviously an audio book, but it's different in so many ways. Format, process, print cost, all these sorts of things. I also love and I'm excited to talk to you because now having a hardback children's book is much more accessible for self-published and hybrid published authors than it was previously. So I'm curious, first and foremost, because I always am, what prompted you to want to write this book?
So essentially, I have a few different reasons, but I feel like the root of my reason really stems from way back, my early beginnings. When I was in the second grade, my mom was told by my second grade teacher that God didn't give me a good brain. And my sixth grade teacher told my mom that I would never make a good student, only a good person to go shopping with. So essentially, the power of words were really the most significant lesson that I ever learned very early on in my educational career. And isn't
that why we all send our children to school, is so that they can be told by their teacher that they don't have a brain and that they're a good shopping partner? Like that's what I aspire to when I send my kids.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And I mean, I'm 34 years old, so this wasn't really that long ago, you know. I mean, I know we've come a long way, but it really wasn't. It's mind blowing. But essentially, you know, a lot of the lessons that we learn in life, I feel, are the lessons in what not to say or what not to do. So thank you, you know, for that big old push way back in the day. But as much as I've loved writing and I've loved the power in a word and in words and the fact that it does shape people's lives, I didn't really get into writing really until I became a mom. Like motherhood made this beautiful mess of me. Like love became larger. Life became luscious and the fleeting moments of time terrified me. So all of a sudden I became a mom and I also started my desperate search into trying to find a way to leave my own children with my love long after I part ways with this earth. So when my daughter was 6 months old, I started writing Imagine My Love, which at that point, it was just like this really fun, like it was still rhymey and, you know, really fun, but it really didn't have much of a storyline. So it just kind of evolved over the years. And then I welcomed my son into the picture and into our family. And so the story kind of grew from there to be what it is today. And it was just a really fun way to intertwine the perspective of motherhood and then also like from a child's eyes too. Like, so I wanted to reach both the readers. And it's really become like this amazing keepsake to be able to offer families to share in that sweet snuggle of story time that they can give to their families like long after, you know, the first book purchase. Like write those notes in the end pages, like to your kids.
Oh, I love that so much.
Yeah. Like when they're parents of their own or when they move away to college, like gift it to them. And then it could just be kind of kept within the family. So I'm big on sentimental everything. So yeah, that was my start. I
love, it's funny that you just mentioned give it when they go to college, because all that time you were talking, all I could think about was Oh, the Places You'll Go by Dr. Seuss, which so many people give away as a college, as a graduation gift. Right.
Yes.
And your comment about make notes in it and then ultimately give it to your child so that they can see, you know, maybe what they were saying or what you were thinking. I love when I was very young, my grandmother, and I think clearly this is a trauma for me because I think I've said this on another podcast, but another of my own. My grandmother gave me a book, a very small book, and it was, there was no text. It was illustration only. And me being, I guess me at that young age, I was like, this is missing something. Like it needs words to go with it. And so I went in and I wrote what I thought was the story that went with the illustrations. And Jamie, I got in so much trouble So
Oh,
much trouble. Yeah, my mom was like, we do not write in books.
Mm-hmm.
And the funny thing is that, that was the belief, or that was her belief back then. Now my books, and I would argue hers, are written all over.
Oh my gosh, how funny.
Yeah.
How funny. See, you even had those beginnings where you were going to write in books. You were going to write books. How amazing is that? Like that, when you really dissect your story of your life, you find these little like glimpses and moments where we're always looking for the answers, but we have to find them like after the fact. It's so
it's like life is, what is the phrase? Like life is lived forward, but it's understood backward.
Oh, I love
something
that.
along. I might be flubbing that, but so when you got this idea for Imagine My Love, was it always in your mind going to be a children's book, a picture book?
It was always going to be a children's picture book. I think stemming from like my work and background with early childhood, I've always had like a love for like children's literacy and like just like sitting in that circle time and like sharing your story. And like, honestly, the sweet snuggle of story time is it's just so special. So I think I always had that like written on my heart for it to be a children's book. And it's hard. It is hard. So I probably couldn't have picked the worst topic to describe when you go and write a children's book. I mean, love, like, how do you put that into words? When I was writing it, I had a couple of moments, and mind you, I love my children very dearly, but I thought to myself, oh my gosh, I started questioning the love that I had for them, because how do I put this onto paper? Like, and then just with the rhyming piece and just making sense of it to the point where it was going to pack the punch that I really wanted it to. It's not easy. Like,
no, and this is why I think children's books are a challenge. It's the same reason I think titles are a challenge, or back cover copy is a challenge, because you have to somehow encapsulate an entire message or feeling in 5 words or 100 words on your back cover, or a smaller number of words in a children's book. So the questions that I get frequently from people who are thinking about writing children's books, it's like, well, how do I do, most are 32 pages, right? They have to be there are industry standards when it comes to children's books, and some rhyme and some don't rhyme. And how did you make those decisions and not get just stuck by them to the point that you just didn't ever do it, which is, I think, what happens to a lot of people.
Right. Oh my gosh, that's so true. I want to say that, as much as there are so many standards and so many things that you have to really look out for, I think that I really followed my heart on this one in so many senses, and it kind of led me in the right direction. Like I said, again, falling back on that early childhood background, like the rhyme and the repetition and all of that kind of like stuck. It kind of is part of the standard. So I kind of had a little bit of an in with that piece. But the biggest piece for me, I think that was the encouragement, is to find a mentor, like find someone who is willing to take your hand, who has been there and willing to give and offer that advice. Because there's so many people out there. I mean, I had an author say to me, I give you permission just to keep this in your family. And to me, again, like, thank you, because ultimately it was that push that was kind of the moment for me that I realized I didn't want to just keep it in my family.
Was she trying to be encouraging, or was that a backhanded kind of like, this isn't gonna go anywhere? So I
don't think it was malicious, but I think it was like, I give you permission, like, don't beat yourself up if this doesn't happen, kind of thing. But it's still something that made me realize, like, I wanted it to be what it is and to see it through. So, but what I did end up discovering along the way is there are people, and there are amazing, incredible people that will want to offer advice to see you succeed, because they were there. And I really did find that. And I'm so thankful that I did.
Will you share who that is?
I will.
Okay.
I'm a huge fan, and I will always be, of her work and of her heart. So Marianne Richmond, she's an amazing children's book author. She is the writer of If I Could Keep You Little, Be Brave Little One. Elizabeth, when I say I was ready to like wave that white flag out the window, I was. And it was my last ditch effort when I sent Marianne Richmond an email saying, like, I need your help. Like, just give me whatever you can of your time. And then I sent it. And I said, she's never going to get back to me.
Of course.
No way. And she did. Yes. And she's been a huge support, like even after the book's been written. So I'm so grateful to have had that connection in her. And I really encourage any author, children's book, or any really genre, to find that mentor, to find that heart that's willing to help you along the way.
Absolutely. 100%. Because to your point, you can find the people who are like, oh, I don't know. I feel nervous for you. Right. And then you can find the people who say, yeah, this isn't, you're probably not going to make millions of dollars on day one. And also your story is important, and what you want to do is important, and the reasons you want to do it are important. And so I support you in that. And let's get you past the roadblocks that don't need to be roadblocks.
Yes.
And sometimes it's just having the discernment or seeking the discernment in someone who's been there to say, is this something I really need to worry about? Or can I bypass this and go find something else to worry? Because there will always be something. So when it came to the illustrations in this book are amazing. They're so beautiful. Where did you find it? Sandra Jessop is your illustrator.
It is. So I had done a lot of research. This piece essentially is a lot of why I went the more self-publishing route, because it was something where I felt like the text and the illustrations really had to come together in order to convey the story. So I did a lot of research, and I ended up finding some of Sandra's work on Pinterest, believe it or not. Sure. And oh my gosh, what an amazing discovery. She is so talented. I could never touch illustrations to begin with, but the beauty that she brings across and the way that she was able to really complement the story just is tremendous to me. So I'm so grateful that we connected. And being that it was my first time really working with anybody in the field of illustration, it was a daunting kind of feeling to be so vulnerable, to put your heart out there and to not really know, what can I really ask of you, and what can you really, bring to make this come to life kind of thing. So,
because it's a matching, right? It's kind of like an analogy or an example I use a lot is when you're watching a movie and they lay the music on top of the scene. Without that music, it would have a very different feeling for the watcher. And the same is true of a children's book. Without the illustration, one of my very best friends, her name's Erin Thorburn, is also an illustrator. And she has a way of really capturing a feeling. And you do it with words, and many people do it with words. I too, stick figures aren't even my thing. Yes. But to, another, Tyler Merritt recently released a children's book, and he talks about his illustrator and tags his illustrator a lot. And that's how I found his illustrator. And it's so fun to find these people who an hour ago, you didn't know they existed. And now you're kind of in their world of communicating, feeling through this form of art. So had you written, when you partnered up with Sandra, was all the text written?
Yes, it was all written. And also illustration notes, just kind of like what I kind of thought in my head. Like it was very, I was open to whatever she had to bring to the table just because of her sheer talent and just knowing that I was in great hands and knowing that she'd be able to convey the parts of the story that weren't necessarily in the text, but were clues along the way in order to end up at that end point. So, yeah, gosh, it was amazing. I'm so glad. So glad.
What would you say was like the biggest, your biggest worry or point of concern through the illustrative, how do we say that word? Anyway, process. Was it I don't want to lead you, but what was it?
For me, like I'm such a perfectionist. And so it was all me. Like it was all just seeing in my head versus, what someone else would visualize a scene or a, circumstance to be. But she was just so wonderful in working with me to make it all just happen. And what the beauty of that is I learned so much about myself, but I learned to let go too, which was huge because what she did in this book was something that I couldn't have done, like even to draw, but also I couldn't have done like without her perspective of it, like what she saw and how she could convey it through her own art. So I think the little surprises along the way, and even still looking at illustrations that I've seen like time and time again throughout this book, I still find little surprises. Like I don't even know that I shared this with her, but if you look on the front cover, there's this little spot, and I don't know that she did it intentionally, but there's this little spot in the tree branch and it's in the shape of a heart. And I don't even know how many people know that. So like, this is a Elizabeth Lyons exclusive, but yeah.
I love getting the exclusive.
Yes.
I feel that makes my day. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it was cool. I grew a lot, in the process and learning to let go and, trust that, this collaboration was going to be everything. And then some, and it really was.
And what's interesting, Jamie, and I love this because it really, I've said time and time again that writing a book, any genre, is an extremely vulnerable pursuit for a lot of obvious reasons. But this is interesting. It's like partnering with an editor. You really have to open yourself to someone else's perspective, in this case, your illustrator, of your story, and not be rigid in terms of what you see it all looking like, and let them have their interpretation. And it's like you work together. And such is the case when you work with an editor, right? On a longer manuscript is, what are you seeing here? How do I want this chapter or this message to be felt by the reader? And how are you feeling it? Because if you're not feeling it the way I'm intending to, how can I change a word, or how can I? And that is so often done in children's books through the art.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. It's a huge piece. It really is. It's tremendous. So
And you say on your website, which I love because it's one of my favorite sayings, is you grow through what you go through.
Oh, I love that. Dorothy Nault. Dorothy. Yeah.
I don't know. Is that who that's originally?
Dorothy. Dorothy Nault. I'm missing something in between. Don't quote me. But yes, we have, it's a great one. You grow through what you go through.
If you choose to.
Right.
And that's like, you've got to make that decision. Well, you don't have to do anything, but you make that decision. You choose to make a decision. It's all so.
Exactly.
Okay. So technically speaking, a lot of people wonder, well, if my illustrator, let's say they're working with watercolor on like they're physically painting something, or maybe they're digitally drawing or whatever. What was the process that you guys went through to go from Sandra creating the illustrations to the illustrations being able to be printed at a high enough quality that they make for a beautiful book?
Yeah, she actually is the reason why this came out the way it did entirely visually, because she did all the work she hand painted and sketched and the whole nine. ended up doing the illustrations in sections. So she started with like a storyboard sketch. So it essentially laid out the whole book for me, like what it would look like generally. And then from there, once everything was approved, she went in and just started with the sketches on each page. And from there, she colored them in. So it was all very step by step, but she has so much work under her belt that she's so seasoned. So it was really helpful that she knew what she was doing when it came to the illustration part, because I wouldn't have really been able to take something that somebody gave me and sent it along. So I was very fortunate that she took that piece on her end, where she put the files after she scanned them all into the format that the designer needed in order to merge the text with the illustrations.
Okay.
So,
okay.
yeah.
And that's a piece. So you did work with what I refer to as a hybrid publisher. So the whole self versus hybrid can get a little confusing, but the best way to break it down, in my opinion, is self is where you are doing everything yourself. Now, you're not necessarily designing your cover, but you are hiring the designer. They send you the cover,
Right.
and then you have to have some knowing of how to upload. When you work with a hybrid publisher, sometimes you pay them up front. Sometimes they take their payment, air quotes, on the back end as a proceed of sales. Like, there are different models for that, but
Right.
that can be helpful if, as you're saying, you don't even know, if Sandra were to send you a bunch of JPEGs or whatever she would have sent, you would have gone,
Right.
what do I do? Like, how do I lay this and lay the text on top? You had someone to help you do that, which if you're self-publishing, you would probably, again, hire someone, which is essentially what you did. You just hired a publishing company, Silver Street Media, who knows how to lay text on top of illustrations, how to upload the whole thing here, there, and everywhere, and then how to get it distributed properly.
Right. Essentially, yeah. So I was really fortunate. So they're pretty local to me, where I was able to be in on that to a degree. They actually let me come in and sit down and help them, figure out what the layout was going to be, how the cover was going to be designed. Because again, the whole self-publishing road to me was a better fit, because I wanted that creative control. I wanted to be able to see through what I had in my heart. So it was the best of both worlds. And I knew that I was going to have to hire a designer anyway, because I don't have that program or anything being so new. So it was a huge help to have a little bit of a team behind me that could provide that support, especially the first rodeo. There's so many things to navigate, for sure. So,
and I think too, it's like anything else. Once you get through the first rodeo, you're so grateful to have had the support. And also you kind of go, well, that wasn't terrible.
Right.
Like, I could do that again, and make some tweaks. And so now the book is available. It's on Amazon. Talk to me about your distribution a little bit, and your goals, and just how you feel about the whole thing. Because again, somebody told you that you have permission to just keep this within your family. And I know you do not want to do that.
Yes. So ultimately, where I am in my life right now, the season of my life right now, is I am a mother full-time, like to a 2 and a 4-year-old. So my time is taken. So essentially, working with Silver Street Media has allowed me to really lean on them to be a lot of like the secretarial work that I really can't take on order wise, and shipping wise, and all of that right now as it stands. I mean, down the line that could change, but I'm so grateful to have that team and have that support. So ultimately, they have their own website listing through Silver Street Media where the book is available. And they also have a listing with Amazon. And then I've also decided to take a bulk order copies, and I've distributed them to multiple gift shops in our community and also surrounding towns. So that piece, to be able to do that with myself on my own at my leisure, has been very rewarding. I love going in and being able to talk to people and hear their stories, and just to be able to ultimately see my book in a gift shop, which is really special to me. Like I never really had that big, like, it has to be in Barnes and Noble or it has to be in Target or anything like that. Like that to me wasn't a huge like success story. Like I feel like these moms and pop shops or these gift shops, like they are built with such heart. They are,
I'm like, no one can see me right now, but
gosh.
I'm having like this is everything.
Homegrown. And it's just, I think that to me means more than anything to be able to be, featured in these stores because it's an honor. I mean, they've built what they've built and here I am coming in and they're welcoming me with this warmth and it's really special. So that piece of it has been awesome. And then I've also done some vendor fairs, which has been really, really cool too, to meet people.
Okay. So when you want to do things like that, like if you want to do a vendor fair, if you want to, partner with an indie bookstore, a little mom and pop shop, or whatever, is the process that you order copies from Silver Street and then you just resell?
Yes. So I order in bulk through them. And then from there, I can do what I please with the books that I have. Yeah. So it works out well.
I am loving, I don't know a better word right now, that even though we said at the beginning, how do you describe love? I'm not describing it. I'm just saying it. I am loving what you said about this is the season of my life right now. Yes. And one of the beauties of publishing, specifically if you self or hybrid, it's not always true with traditional because the traditional houses are a business. And of course they want you to get out there and pound the pavement and they want you to do it quickly and efficiently but when it comes to sales. But if you're self or hybrid published, the beauty is that you can honor the season that you're in when you're in it.
Right.
So, when I did my first books, my God, I had a 1-year-old twins and a 3-year-old. It was not the time to be, Amazon didn't even really exist. I mean, they were like fledgling. They were operating out of Jeff Bezos' living room or something at the time. But, it wasn't. And I think that that's a message I never got back then, Jamie. Like, I wish I had you back then to reinforce to me and say, I give you permission, Elizabeth, to acknowledge that this is the season of your life. And when that changes, if you decide, now I'm ready to, like, the book is there. The book is timeless. It doesn't matter that it came out in 2022.
Exactly.
In 2030, it could go.
Yeah, exactly. Right? Yeah, those were my thoughts too. Like, I feel like once the book is there, like, it's always going to be there. Like, you're always going to be marketing your book. You're always going to find your book in new hands and new homes and new hearts. And I feel like a lot of my peers are very focused on their businesses as an author. And I think it's so fabulous. But to me, where I am, like, just the idea of doing these like massive launches and doing these things, like, I hardly have the time to go to the bathroom or have a snack. So, it's just not where I am. And I love the flexibility of being able to make those calls and say, I can still get my book out there, but like slow and steady for me is going to have to be the way because my kids are my priority ultimately.
I love your ownership of this because, big launches are exciting and they're fun and they're like all kinds of crazy for some people.
Yeah.
And for those people, I'm in full support of that. Like, go. If that feeds your heart, I am here for you. And on the flip side, if someone says, you know what, I'm just like, I have authors with whom I work who are like, I'm just going to let it do its thing. I trust the universe, whatever. And there are certainly, if you don't ever talk about your book, you can't be super surprised when no one ever buys it. Like the universe can only work so hard.
Exactly.
There's got to be a little bit of a partnership there. However, for you to feel peaceful and not feel like you should, air quotes, be doing something different or like you're doing it wrong, air quotes, if you're not having a big, massive launch. And if you're not posting, I sold 15,000 books today.
Right.
Boy, I mean, if we could all just, it comes down to the whole concept of enough, which I mean, wrote a whole book on that. It's like, what's enough for you right now?
Right, exactly. And I think that it was a post of mine just recently. author had reached out to me and said, do you have any tips for a newbie like me? And I'm like thinking to myself, oh my gosh, you're looking for advice from me? Well, okay. Well, I guess what I'd have to say is just the idea of success. Like, what does that look like? What does that feel like for you? I mean, to me, I love to say I'm in the business of filling hearts over pockets. Like, I feel like nothing you can take with you when you go is tangible. And your story, one we all have written on our hearts, is going to resonate and reach exactly where it's supposed to be. And that's going to be in time. And I mean, all we have is today, this moment, right? We don't know. So that to me was huge. And so I just feel like you just should never stake the idea that society views success this way. So I'm only successful if I fit that mold. And to me, I'm just not. I'm like a little bit of an introvert, little bit of an extrovert. I'm an overthinker. I think about overthinking.
This is why we get along so well.
Yes.
I think about overthinking. Hello.
Oh gosh, yes. So the complexities that reside within me enough, are overwhelming to sit. And not to say that I haven't experienced like that self-doubt, because gosh, it is so prevalent in anything that you really are vulnerable enough to put yourself out there and doing. But you push through and you find the connections, and you sometimes connections find you, and it's amazing. It's amazing.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how I feel like you and I connected. I mean, because we connected in, it was the most random. It was a group. It was what was it?
Author Mom.
That's what it was.
Laura Haber. Yeah. You were a presenter, and I followed you right after that. And I was so inspired by everything you had to give, and relay to us when you spoke to us. And I was like, oh gosh, I have to keep in touch. And to think, if it wasn't for even the journey to publication, that we may not have ever met, or I may not have heard your story. Like, it's baffling to me, and it's crazy, but I'm so grateful that,
Well, and thank you for saying that. And on the flip side, there was something, I mean, there were a bunch of people in that room because it was over Zoom, and there was something about your energy that grabbed me. I know that sounds a little weird to people for whom it sounds weird. For people where it doesn't sound weird, they're like, yeah, I get it. But there was something about your energy from the very beginning. I followed you right away. I found you immediately on Instagram. And from that moment was like, where has this girl been all my life? Like, I was so thrilled to have found you. And I love that the algorithm seems to like our relationship, and it shows me all your stuff. And, I just, to your point, it's like, where was I before that moment when I met you?
Yeah.
I didn't even know that I wanted this. Like, I didn't even know that this was, and so it is with your readers. And so what's next for you?
Yeah. Well, let's see. So I do have 2 other books in the works. So one of them is another very sentimental kind of book. And then another one was actually inspired by my 4-year-old, who came to me when she was 3 years old and said, Mommy, I want to help kids with boo-boos. And so she hosted a lemonade stand, and in one weekend she made $2,000 to donate.
What?
Yeah, to Shriners Hospital for Children. So after that year, she just has kept doing them. So ultimately, after her first lemonade stand, it was late, and she was, dilly-dallying. She wanted to, play or whatever. And I'm like, okay, Lemonade Lucy. And I was like, oh, Lemonade Lucy. So essentially, I wrote this story, and I know this is going to sound silly, but in my mind in the shower.
This is where all great things come to us.
Right, exactly. So I wrote a story called Lemonade Lucy, and it's about her whole experience with the lemonade stand and the difference she made. And I hope to get that one out there so that we can kind of give some of the proceeds back to Shriners Hospital for Children as well. Like anything good, like feel like there is so much gain in goodness. So anything good that I can give while I'm still here is great. So I feel really
this is the best day ever. Like you are just like love in a human, like so many people are out talking about, making, and look, money's great because with money you can donate to Shriners.
Right.
With money you can. So I'm not trying to be like money doesn't matter at all. That's not the message here. But for that to be the sole focus, I'm trying so hard to pull everyone back. I'm not trying to pull people back from that as though that's it's just, I'm trying to, remind myself, if no one else, that is not, money is a byproduct of making an impact.
Right.
And I just, man, can we get that book out? Like, and no pressure, but man.
I know my mom wants it out like yesterday. She's like, why didn't you do Lemonade Lucy? Oh my gosh, it's so funny. I would love to. It's just investment wise, I've got to be able to,
of course,
get this launched and going. And once it does, I'll be thrilled to get that out because my daughter, even she loves it. It's so awesome. And even like to be that role model for your children. Like I never thought that when I became a stay-at-home mom, it was tough. It was tough because I had given up a career and it was like, where do I fit now? But then it's like, sometimes it's not what you do, it's who you raise. So essentially, I'm just so proud to be her mom and my son's mom. And it's been a journey in itself to think that this whole motherhood and authorship and everything else has collided. And it's a hard story to really share because there's been so many pieces along the way, but it all just happens and works out the way it should. And it's just a matter of purpose. Like you find your purpose and it's out there and it's within you and you just don't know it until you know it.
And, the ripple effect too of your daughter, right? So all of her friends who see her doing what she's doing and et cetera, whether or not they do that exact thing is not neither here nor there, but in the world we live in right now, what a beautiful thing to have more and more and more kids who are leading with love.
Yes.
And other people can see.
Yes. Oh, it's so important. It is so important, especially in the world we live in now. Yes. I couldn't more.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Amen. I'm going to link all of your stuff. So I've got Instagram, your website, Facebook. Obviously, I'm going to link to your book on Instagram. Is there where are you the most active?
I think Instagram. I have the most following on Instagram. I mean, Facebook, I really haven't navigated a whole lot. It's up there. But as far as like the following and really having the reach and, being able to, see the insights and stuff like that on Instagram, it's cool that, how many people how many people it touches, it's cool, but.
So for everyone listening, Jamie is The Rendered Root.
The Rendered
Root. That is the handle. And I'll link it all up below. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you so much. Oh my gosh. I cannot thank you enough. It has been an absolute honor. I am such a fan. So
I got you, sister.
I am so grateful. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for tuning in. If you enjoyed this episode, this is your friendly reminder to follow or subscribe, leave a quick review, and share it with someone you know has a great story or message, but isn't sure what to do next. Also, remember to check out publishaprofitablebook.com for book writing resources and tips, and to see all the ways we can work together to get your book out into the world. Again, thanks so much for listening, and I'll talk with you again soon.